Ashay, Ma'at, Imhotep. My name is Raymond Witcher. This is the Truth May Hurt, and I am your host. Today, I want to go over a few things with you. I want to clean up a few things from the last video, which was, I think it was who was King James, okay? King James also, before he wrote the Bible, he wrote a book called Demonology, all right? That's one thing I want you to know. The other thing I want you to know is when we were talking about melanin, I mentioned that it controls the darkness of our skin. As I always do, let me do this first so I can keep up with my time, and let's go full screen. All right. So, okay. So melanin, it controls the amount or the darkness of our skin. But what people don't really know is melanin is the most expensive thing on earth that I know of. It's more valuable than gold. Melanin right now costs $450 a gram. Okay. So really, no person of color's poor. They're just not getting paid. I do know that some Caucasians get shots of melanin. Okay. So you're just from the melanin in your body alone, you're around about $30 to $40 million. All right. The next thing I wanted to go over and clear up was King James commissioned his mother's death. All right. She had been sentenced to death, I think for treason or something. And she begged him to pardon her, and they ruled the kingdom together. And he denied his own mother. That's one of the things. When I mentioned that Paul was a bounty hunter, and he went into Ireland to drive out the snakes. Well, they weren't snakes. They were the Africans that wore the head bonnets with the cobra on it. But what I mixed up was it wasn't Paul that went into Ireland. It was this guy named Patrick that the Catholic Church hired. And they promised him that if he could drive out the snakes, which were the people that had lived in Africa that were rebelling against Christianity and telling the people don't believe them, they stole it from the Africans. So they hired this guy named Patrick, and they gave him military support and promised him that once he did that, they would make him a saint. And you celebrate him every year on St. Patrick's Day. So I wanted to clear that up. It wasn't Paul, it was Patrick. But Paul was a bounty hunter. Let's see, what do I have here? It's okay, I got that. With the bonnets, I have that. Have you ever heard of the Trans-Pacific slave trade? They didn't just have the transatlantic slave trade. They had a Trans-Pacific slave trade. Look up the Trans-Pacific slave trade, and that is where the ships sailed out of Fort Jesus in Kenya. The slave ship Jesus was the first ship to sail out of Ghana with slaves. Because I wanted to clarify that. Let's see. The 54 scholars that King James had retranslate the Bible, I want to ask you something. Who do you think those men feared more? God or King James? Okay. He made them put in the Bible, because it was never in there before, honor the king. So my question is, because I mentioned that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they say they are faith faith-based systems. They're a faith-based system of the Abrahamic faith. They're not. They're all fear-based. Okay, so who do you think these men feared more that retranslated the Bible? Do you think they feared God more, that they wouldn't have to face until they die? Or do you think they feared King James more, who would cut their head off that day? Okay, so I wanted to clear that up. When I say I'm not antichrist, I'm antichrist. Anti means against. I never gave you the definition of anti. Anti means before. And what I'm showing you is that I've traced most of the things in the Bible back to before, which leads to Egypt and our story. Okay, so I'm not anti-Bible, I'm anti-Bible. I'm anti-Christ, not anti. Because the same story that's told for Christ is told for Haru and a whole lot of other people. There have been 16 crucified saviors. Look them up. They're in one of the previous videos. All you have to do is just go and watch it. Okay, Okay, I want to mention this. My sister in Kenya, Tracy Kodeda, her 18 children, when we first really started talking and met and everything, see, I think it's 6 hours. They are 6 hours ahead of us, I think. Okay, so it was late there, and we were talking, and I got to meet my nieces and nephews. Okay, and just the dark melanated skin. Okay, and it was late there, so the lights weren't turned up, and I think it was just the light she had on the phone or the computer. But man, when they smiled, you just saw the brightest teeth and the brightest white eyes. Okay, and the melanated skin. It reminded me of how they used to mark us back in the 60s, and when blacks couldn't get on television, and the television were black and white. So instead of the film hiring black people to play black roles, the white people would take black shoe polish and paint it all over their face and just leave their eyes white. And then they'd smile and they'd had white teeth. And it took me back to that. But honestly, this was one of the most beautiful things I had seen, because I know my nieces and nephews were looking at me with their brightest smiles. And because they were in a dark room, it illuminated their teeth and their eyes. So it, how they marked us, you can't mark black. Everything came from black. The light didn't come from the darkness. Yeah, the light came from the darkness, not the darkness came from the light. So before there was light, there was darkness. And that's scripture too. So just wanted to touch on that. Okay, everybody. I mentioned to everybody that this is The Truth May Hurt. So you might need a helmet. Okay, today you're going to need your helmet. You're going to need your mouthpiece, your shoulder pads. You're going to need your seatbelt and everything. All right. So let's get into the presentation, and I'm going to start again with the circle. Okay. Inside this circle is my realm of understanding. Everything that I think and believe I know is within the circumference of this circle. I must realize that there is much more outside my circle and realm of understanding and limited knowledge, so I can learn and expand my realm of consciousness. I can't limit myself to believe I know all that there is to know based only on my limited realm of understanding. Here's my challenge to you. Instead of getting mad at me for showing you this, get smart and prove me wrong. Without your feelings, your passions, and your emotions, show me evidence and I'll show mine. Deal? Ashe, Ma'at, Imhotep. That means I say this in peace. I've called on the universe to join in harmony I've called on the laws of Ma'at, which is righteousness, justice, harmony. I've called on the laws of Imhotep, and I'm asking you to join. And let's do this together, all right? I want to show you something. Why did I do this? This is why I didn't go to the screen. How do I get out? It won't let me do it. Okay, I'm gonna pause and correct this, and I'll be right. Okay, we're gonna go down to the next step. What I want to show you here, and I didn't put it on here, I should have. Let me move this down. If you get, when you're with me, have a pen and a piece of paper. Or the notes open on your phone or something like that. All right. Because what I want you to write down is go on YouTube and do a search for 19 Keys and Kaba Kameni, K-A-B-A, last name, K-A-M-E-N-E. Watch that video. It's long, but it's worth every minute. And this slide is from that video. Okay. And the majority of people with mental illness, addiction, thinking of committing suicide, feel they are all alone in this world. And that's a lie. We're just taught wrong. Christianity teaches we should separate ourselves from the dead, have no relationship or communication with the dead. Now, my question is, do you believe that your mom, your dad, your grandparents, and all these ancestors that it took for us to be here are going to do you harm, lead us in the wrong direction once their spirit leaves their body? Our Creator, God, assigned to us, okay? Do you now believe their spirits are the boogie spirits that want to destroy us? Okay, so I want you to think about this. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it. So what I'm telling you is, look at the circle on the left. We have 2 parents. We have 4 grandparents. We have 8 grandparents. We have 16 great-grandparents, 32 great-great-grandparents. And if you just do this equation all the way down, let's see, how many generations is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18 generations. Okay? And each time you're doubling how many ancestors it took for you to get here. Okay? And if you really follow this equation, there's no way that we could ever be alone. We may be separated from their physical body, but we can never be separated from the spirit. Okay? So when churches or religion is telling you to separate yourself from the dead, it's the last thing you want to do. I mentioned to you that, can I bring this up? Hold on, let me see oh man, I'm messing up. Okay, I can't bring it up, so I can't really keep up with my time. Let me monitor my time right now. Okay, so, all right, this is 11:35. Okay, so when it comes down to it, if one of the ancestors is in this circle, didn't make it, we wouldn't be here. Just one. In this thread, chain of our ancestors, if they didn't make it, we wouldn't be here, okay? They have a vested interest in us, okay? Because we are them. We are who is representing them now, okay? Now that I know this, now that I know from Luke 17, verses 20 and 21, where the Pharisees say, Jesus, when we're going to see this heaven come down that you keep telling us about? And he says, heaven won't be an observation. You won't see it low here. You won't see it low there. Because the kingdom of heaven is within you. That God, he lives within you. Now that I know this, now that I know that the thoughts I get, the evil come from my Creator, the evil come from my destroyer, my mental consciousness, okay, are my ancestors. I get up in the morning, I speak to God. Good morning, God. Good morning, great Creator. I speak to my mother, my father, my son, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, I speak to them and ask them, hey, how did y'all rest well with me last night? Did you rest well? When I rest, because when I rest, they rest. When I do something, they're doing it with me. So I ask them, did you rest well last night? And I ask them, what do you want to do today? And they want to do the same thing. Take me on a human experience. Go to work. Teach our people. So that's what I do. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you, oh no, I can't say don't let anybody tell you. Don't you ever think or believe. This is what makes believing so dangerous. You're never alone. It's impossible for you to be alone. As soon as we make the reconnect to our spirituality, we get our ancestors back, all right? So that's what I want to show you, okay? Now, after 500 years of oppression and having Jesus beaten into our ancestors, they're shouting about it, how good Jesus Christ is. Remember what they did to our ancestors. This is why. Now, you see this? This is Hollywood Jesus, realistic Jesus, clothed Jesus, real Jesus. He ain't got no picture. He never existed. Jesus, the letter J, the letter J is only 700 years old. So this mythological Jesus is only 700 years old. Like it or not, I didn't make it up. I just had the courage to tell you the truth. All right, now right here on the left, this is what they did to our ancestors. Look, and nobody can deny this. Nobody can say I'm making it up. Okay, this is what they did. They beat Jesus Christ into us 500 years ago. And look at us now, 300 years after slavery. They had beaten it into us so bad, and here it is, what, 700 years later? And ain't nothing better than Jesus. He's so good to me. You're just giving him all the credit. I mean, we were trained to do that. The Muslims give the credit to Allah. The Jews give the credit to whoever. The Hindu, I think they give their credit to Krishna. The Asians give their credit to Buddha. And all of it is taken away from the story of Heru, H-E-R-U. Same story, identical, word for word, copied, pasted, embellished, Hellenized for Christianity because they took all the blacks out. They made us slaves in that book. Matter of fact, look up again, this is in previous videos, look up Reverend C.C. Jones. He was a Baptist, Southern Baptist preacher that wrote the instructions for Negroes in America. Look it up, and he had five emphases on how to train Negroes in America. Number one, teach Negroes that they were made to be slaves. Number two, teach Negroes that God made white people to be their master. Number three, teach the church that they cannot intervene in any way with what God has ordained. Number four, teach Negroes that God allowed slavery so that whites can introduce them to Jesus. And number five, teach Negroes that God made us to live in poverty and get our reward in heaven. Read it for yourself. Or ignore it, like most people do. I'm not ignoring it because I'm tired of this game. I refuse to play. I tapped out. But you didn't win because now I know. Now you lose because now I know. Now you lose because I am no longer in mental bondage slavery. Okay? So this is, if this is too much for you, I understand. But I'm not going to die with this knowledge. Okay? I refuse. What you do with it is your choice. All right? But for the preachers that are preaching this is historical, I'm trying to shut you down. For the preachers that now are awakening and they're looking at this, because I don't care if you went to theology school, missionary, all of those things, you're being indoctrinated to their philosophy. You are carrying and passing on their generational curse onto our own people. Do you think the same ones that enforce this are going to teach you anything that goes against this? Listen, out of all of these scholars that have reviewed this book, if I can find these many errors in it, they don't know what they're doing. And how do I do this now? Shoot. I'm having all of these problems trying to hold this. Okay, here we go. All right, now, hold a second. All right, let's go over here. All right. Is the Bible reliable and accurate? All right. Have a typo. I meant to say, did the disciples say the same things about the same event? Okay, I can say, do the disciples say the same thing? Let's take a look at what they say about the day after the crucifixion and compare what Matthew, Luke, John, and Mark all said. Do you know that in the book of Mark, there were originally only 8 verses? Do you know that the verses 9 through 20 were added hundreds of years later, and all verses are in red letters, meaning that Jesus said it. So if you get a red letter Bible, look at verses 9 through 20, and they're all in red letters. And there's something in there I'm going to point out. I can't point it out now because I'm sticking to Matthew, Luke, John, and Mark. Okay? And I don't want to go to 9 because it would be too long, but I'm going to pick it up. But for now, just look at, and then if you get a Bible, look in between verses 8 and 9 and read what it says. Those writings from 9 through 20 aren't in most of any other manuscripts or writings. They made it up. Here we go again. Come on. Hold on. Okay. All right. Okay, we're going to start at Matthew 28. And now this is the day after the crucifixion. All right. They had taken Jesus off the cross. Now that's strange because the protocol for crucifixion during Jesus' time was to leave all crucified on the cross for 40 days. Now, in order for me to believe that the one Jew, now, and also they were crucifying up to 500 Jews a day. So there were 20,000 crosses up all at one time, at the same time. And the one Jew that they hated more than the 20,000 Jews on the cross, Jesus, they took him down because they did not want to violate Jewish traditions. Okay, but enough said. These are the biblical records of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay, and Matthew says that after, starting at verse 28, verse 1, after the Sabbath, at the dawn of the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, they went to the tomb. There was a violent earthquake. Now I put stuff in yellow and highlight so that I can track myself, but it's also to highlight what we're getting ready to compare. So Matthew says that there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from the heaven and, going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. Okay. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white like snow. All right. Now let's go down to 5. The angel said to the woman, do not be afraid. All right. And then she says, come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell the disciples he is risen from the dead. 8 says, the woman hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, ran to the disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. Greeting, he said, They came to him, collapsed at his feet, and worshiped him. Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell the brothers in Galilee. There they will see me." All right. Now let's go. I don't know why this computer is freezing on me. Okay. Let's go to Mark 9, verses 1 through 9. We're only doing verses 1 through 9. And we're comparing what Mark, Luke, Matthew, and John say only on verses 1 through 9. But after we finish this, you go and do the comparison the same way doing it here and look at the differences. This video will be too long if I did it, all right? So Mark says, after the Sabbath, at the dawn of the first week of the day, Mary Magdalene, so both Marys went again. They went to the tomb, and he says there was a violent earthquake. They all did the same thing. He said, "He is risen." So women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet fearful. So they kind of report the same thing, all right? Oh, come on. Oh, snaps. Hold on. Gotta get this back. Okay. All right, now let's look at what John said. This is John 20, verses again, 1 through 9. Now John says something totally different. Well, not totally different, but it leaves out one of the most important things that it would be impossible, not almost impossible. Let's read it. On the first day of the week, cometh Mary Magdalene early. She came by herself. First difference, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and see if the stone had been taken away. What happened to the angels? What happened to the earthquake? Mary goes back. The stone is gone. Here, they went to the tomb, and the angels of the Lord came down from heaven, and they rolled it back. They rolled it back. Okay? They rolled it back. In Matthew, there was an earthquake. And where's John? I'm trying to find John. Matthew, there was an earthquake. Matthew, there was a violent earthquake. Mark, there was a violent earthquake. John, there is no violent earthquake. It's only one Mary. Luke, very early in the morning, it says, upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the cell. Doesn't identify that it was Mary or who they are. All right, and they bring spices. All right. Now, they found the stone rolled away. So you have two people saying that there was an earthquake. Two people saying that when they got there, the stone was already rolled away. Now, if you read back of the day of crucifixion, there's also an earthquake reported at the time Jesus was crucified. Excuse me. All right. Let's read on. We're just comparing. That's what I want you to see. And now, if the Bible is historical and accurate, it's impossible for somebody to be at Calvary Hill in that area and there be a violent earthquake and none of these guys see it. None of these guys feel it. None of this was reported to them. It's impossible for two of them to say that when they got there, the angels came down and rolled the stone away and caused a great earthquake. And John and Mark, it's like it didn't happen. We slept through that. You know, we were tired after the day of crucifixion, and we took a nap, and we didn't feel an earthquake. Okay, now I mentioned Okay, you can read these notes down here. It pretty much summarizes what I just told you. All right. I don't have the header here, but this is Galatians chapter 4, verses 22 through 24. I mentioned in the previous video about King James. I mentioned Galatians chapter 4, verses 22 and 24. So I wanted to put these verses here to show you. Let me move this. Because I want you to understand something. Okay, now, Paul. I think I showed you in the previous video that the age of Pisces is the age of deception. Okay, it's the age of deception, it's the age of trickery, it's the age of these things. And Paul told you in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 16, that being the crafty guy I am, I caught you with deception. I caught you with guile. I tricked you. Read it for yourself. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 16. All right, so I threw this in and said, listen, go to Galatians chapter 4, verses 22 and 24. Then it starts off and it says, for it is written that Abraham had two sons, and one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was born of the free woman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise, which things are an allegory for these two. For these are the two covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, it's gendered to bondage, is Hagar. Okay? What is the definition of allegory? Allegory is a story, poem, picture that can be interpreted or reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. All right? So, what is the allegory that Paul is talking about? What did Paul make a story up about for political reasons? Does he tell us in this verse? Verse 22, he tells you he made up the story of Abraham, his two sons, the bondsmaid, and the free woman. It didn't exist. All right? Give me a second. I just want to cover this. All right, now, so all three Abrahamic faiths are totally destroyed by this verse because none of them ever existed. So all of these people that are going around killing everybody, talking about God gave them, they are God's chosen people. The Muslims have the promised land of Mecca. The Jews they stole Israel. Now check Israel. Israel wasn't a nation until 1948. There was no place called Israel. So when you see Israel in the Bible as a promised land, you can't have an Israel in the Bible as a promised land before there was a land named Israel. Okay, I just want to keep going here. Let's see. Here we go again. All that. All right, I need to bring this back up. It's written. Right. So I want to just narrow this down. We're going to close this out. When you look at the word Israel, no, I can't explain that to you because I need slides to do it. All right. But we have been lied to. All right. We've all been taken advantage of. The Jews, the Christians, the Islamic faith, and all the rest. Okay. Now, when it comes to these three Abrahamic faiths, look at Galatians 4, chapter 4, verses 23, 24. And get someone to explain to you how Abraham could have existed when the man who wrote the book said he didn't. Lord have mercy. I mean, You can read it for yourself. Now, also, in the beginning of verse 22, it starts off and it says, "For it is written." Now, what does it usually mean when the Bible says, "For it is written"? Now, people usually just give that one little phrase, "For it is written," so much credit. Well, it's in the Bible and it says, "For it is written." So when we read something that says, "For it is written," people take it as the word of God. But isn't it written that Goldilocks did this? And isn't it written that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus, they come on Christmas? Isn't it written that the three bears? So what does "for it is written" really mean? Where does all of this credit come from that is in the Bible that comes after "it is written"? For it is written. Get somebody to explain to you what kind of a qualification that quote is, because people would take that those 4 words, "for it is written," and drill it in the dirt that you can't tell me nothing, because the Bible says, "For it is written." Yeah, okay. All right. So we're gonna clock this out. I can get my clock up there. Let me see where I am on time. Let me just check in. Okay. We're not too bad. All right. We're not too bad. Anything else that I wanted to cover on this? No, we're gonna make this one short. I just wanted to focus on these few things right here and show you that, listen, I follow 3 rules in quality assurance, quality engineer for 27 years. And I follow 3 simple rules, because when I put my name on that piece of paper and sign it that this spacecraft is ready to fly, or this piece of defense hardware is ready to defend this nation, I'm responsible for it. And if there's something wrong, they're coming back to me. I don't want to be sitting in front of those boards. And I had to do it once because I missed something. It's called an escape. Like a prisoner will escape from jail, or an escape. A hostage can escape. Well, when a quality assurance representative misses something that they should have caught, it's called an escape. And the escape that I missed, it was a showstopper. It was gonna have to cancel the mission. So we had to fix it. We fixed it. But I adopted one rule that has 3 things. Well, 3 rules. The first rule is trust nobody but God. Simple. The second is question everybody but God. Rule 3 is the easiest one. Go back to rule 1 and start over. Ashe, and have a nice day. Brothers and sisters, come back, subscribe, like, and share. Peace be with you.